Thanks. My name is Adam Davis. I'm a physician. I'm a neuroradiologist. I was in practice for about 30 years. I'm no longer practicing. I'm the CEO of Amalgamated Vision. We're a company that's was incorporated back in 2010, and the mission of the company is to create optical engines that provide a good user experience for augmented reality devices. So the talk that I'm going to give now should be about 25, 30 minutes. And the discussion will be about the augmented reality industry, the augmented reality paradigm and devices that are being used, what Amalgamated Vision is doing and how it fits into that into that entire ecosystem. Just so you know, what I'm wearing right now is a 3D print of what we're building. Right now, it is non-functional, but it is the form factor that we will be delivering. Let's talk about the AR industry. So visual augmentation, the presentation of information to a user using through the visual field, is a proven technique. There's a large number of research studies, a large amount of field experience in multiple verticals that show that just-in-time, hands-free critical information enhances clinical decision support or decision support in all verticals. As well as enhances task guidance. It makes people's ability to do a job more efficacious, more efficient. There's also been a huge expenditure in the AR industry. Tens of billions of dollars have been invested in developing devices by some of the largest tech companies in the world. But we run up against an insurmountable market problem, and that is, despite the fact that there is a tremendous amount of discussion and a tremendous amount of resources being spent and a large number of people involved in this field, the adoption of AR is quite small. And we know this on a practical level. We know this because everyone has their camera off, but I would bet that nobody or maybe at most one person on this call right now is wearing a head-mounted device. And we are, and this is a committee involved with augmented reality and enterprise. We were just presenting at a meeting for NASA about augmented reality and AI and how to enhance Earth-independent medical operations, and absolutely no one was wearing a head-mounted display, and that speaks volumes. It says that it is not being adopted by the early adopters, let alone the population at large. And I think that this is a human factors issue, and that's why I'm pleased to be speaking to this audience. Customer needs are unmet, the functionality is missing the mark, the visual and cognitive experience is poor, and the ergonomics and aesthetics are unacceptable. And the question is why, after all this time and money? And I think the reason, well, actually, before I get to that, let me do some definitions just to make sure we're all on the same page. A lot of people think of the words augmented reality differently. So augmented reality is visual augmentation that maintains real world awareness. And that's different than virtual reality or, which is immersive and isolating. There are two general categories of augmented reality head-mounted devices. There's the peripheral head-mounted device, which can be monocular or binocular, and that's an opaque visual display that lies within the peripheral visual field. And we have an example of that in the top picture. An example of that would be the RealWear peripheral device you see in the top picture. And this provides on-demand information. It allows real-world interaction, but the downside is that a portion of the visual field is obscured by the presence of this of the optomechanical components of this device. So The other category of augmented reality devices is the see-through and the pass-through head-mounted display, which can also be monocular or binocular. And that blends digital content, either optically or digitally, with the real world. The optical see-through is content put on a transparent lens, and good example of that, the two middle pictures, an X-Real device or a Microsoft HoloLens. And then there's a digital pass-through in which the content is combined with a video feed of the real world. And an example of that would be the Apple Provision, which you see in the bottom picture. I maintain that the reason we have difficulties with AR adoption is twofold. One is the AR device itself, and the second is the overgeneralization of the see-through paradigm. The most common commercial AR design currently is the see-through or optical paradigm, and that is when digital content is superimposed on the real-world view via these transparent waveguide or combiner optics. And an example of that is seen in the schematic in the picture on the right, the top two. On the left, you see a waveguide, and on the right, you see a combiner where the display is reflected from a large transparent lens and reflected to the eye. And beneath that, you see two commercial examples of that, or two real-life examples of that. On the left, there's a Loomis waveguide with a projector attached to it. And on the right, you have the world's most expensive combiner device. That's the heads-up display in an F-35 fighter pilot helmet. The digital content superimposed on a transparent lens gives you a simultaneous view of that digital data as well as the environment. And that content is superimposed directly and continuously within the line of sight, either at the primary point of gaze or near the primary point of gaze. And a example of that is the bottom pictures. And you can see that with transparent lenses, the digital content is superimposed directly in the line of sight. And what I maintain is that the see-through paradigm results in a poor user experience when you require a mobile, highly interactive or situationally aware moment because of the following reasons. The see-through paradigm, when it presents digital data on transparent lens, the content is difficult to visualize. You have poor contrast, there's low brightness, and you have poor resolution. And on the right, you can see this is an image through a HoloLens during an EMT training exercise, and the physiologic data that the EMT wants to see is displayed in front of them, but it completely obscures the region of interest, the patient that is lying, on the floor. And that is an inherent problem with the see-through paradigm. The image below that is from a Magic Leap device, and you can see that the content completely obscures the world that you're looking at. Plus, the device is also necessarily, even though it's transparent, it's dark in order to allow you to see that digital content. And these diffractive lenses create all sorts of chromatic aberration or color rainbow effect through light that passes through that, and you can see that as well. So the waveguide itself and the data obscure the environment that you're situated within. The content, when you put digital data in front of the eyes, this digital clutter is distracting and it decreases your situational awareness. It also creates visual strain, which we'll get to in a minute, and this fatigue increases your cognitive burden. It's more difficult to comprehend what you're looking at. Plus, many of these, not the small ones like an X-Real, but the larger ones like a HoloLens, a Magic Leap, they have bulk and weight and they have poor ergonomics. These have been studied for many years, and that's part of the issue here, is that we've known this for years. Laramie and Ware said, when they studied these devices, said that transparent HMDs are unsuited for use in crowded or dynamic environments or where maintenance of visual attention is critical. And that's part of the issue here, is that what we're trying to achieve, putting the content on a transparent lens to see the environment, is really working against us and is problematic. So to dive a little deeper into this, let's go into visual interference. And that is when you have different planes of focus or conflicting patterns presented to one eye. Studies have shown that compared with natural native vision, when you have increasing complexity of the digital content and increasing complexity of the real world superimposition, you have increased time for a user to understand what they're looking at and decreased comprehension of what they're looking at. And in the graph to the right, we can see that the three circled bars represent all the way on the left, native binocular vision. In the middle, binocular vision when you have an opaque digital content over one eye, and all the way on the right when you have binocular vision with a transparent monocular device over the eye. And you can see with increasing complexity of the digital content and more complexity of the outside world, it takes longer and longer to have a response time to understand what the user is looking at. And there's also field examples of this. On the lower left-hand corner, you see a picture of a Apache 64 helicopter pilot, and they're using a monocular see-through digital device. And this has been studied extensively, two separate studies. And the best summary I can give for how that experience is problematic is that they found that the pilots are closing one eye to either focus on the digital content or the world around them. So we have Apache 64 helicopter pilots who are literally alternating which eye is open in order to see their digital information or fly their aircraft. We discussed peripheral head-mounted displays, and they also failed to catch on, even though they have in many ways many of the advantages that obviate the problems that we've been discussing. So they have superior functionality compared with some of the see-through devices, in that the position gives you high data availability, the opaque display gives you easier viewing of digital content. There you avoid that interference. It's not immersive, so you can see the world, and it doesn't clutter the visual field, because when you look away, you see the real world, and when you look at it, you see the digital content. The problem with this with peripheral HMD is that you have a persistent obscuration of the visual field, and that's because of these large optomechanical components. And we can see in a Google Glass or a RealWear or in a Copen OEM Vuzix device, you can see that there's a large supporting arm, and the ergonomics are suboptimal. Maybe not for use at an oil rig, but certainly for consumers in the street or anybody who needs to be highly mobile, or such as a special forces person or anybody who needs to be moving quickly and situationally aware. And we know this because these peripheral devices have been available for decades, and their form factor is really what limits the widespread consumer adoption. So what are the specifications for an optimal augmented reality HMD device? And I put this list together, and it's a pretty obvious list of things that you would need for an HMD device. What's interesting is when I invited to this lecture, I went onto the ARIA website and I looked at the 12 different categories of human factors that make for a good device. And they're very similar to this list that we have up on the board right here, the heuristics of what makes a good AR device. And we know what they are. The digital content should be readily available and easily accessible. There should be no obscuration of the environment. It should be small and lightweight and compact. It should be ultra near to eye, so you have favorable ergonomics and you can wear it all day long. High quality image, a field of view that's large enough to convey the data. And by that, I mean something at least big enough to cover your central gaze of 20 to 30 degrees. It needs to be inconspicuous without facial illumination. You shouldn't have an outward glare. from your device or the data presenting to the outside world as well. It should be confidential. The aesthetics need to be acceptable, and you need to avoid all those physiologic problems like visual interference or physical impairment. So the question is, how can this be achieved? And the problem has always been the human factors, and the solution has always been the optics themselves. So at Amalgamated Vision, many years ago, we decided that the best way to circumvent these problems was to start with a laser beam scanning light source. Laser beam scanning basically uses, as shown in the movie that you're seeing, it's a beam of light that is hits a oscillating, a bi-directional oscillating mirror, and it moves back and forth and up and down very rapidly and turns the laser on and off to paint a picture. Very much like a cathode ray tube, like an old TV set. It paints a picture with the beam of light as it moves back and forth in a raster fashion. For what we do at Amalgamated Vision is we use this technology that's 2 or 3 decades old already, but instead of projecting it outward, we take laser beam scanning and we project it directly inward into the eye. And we use optics to take that dispersed beam of light, squeeze it through the pupil, and project it onto the retina. And that's called virtual retinal display. And the reason it's virtual retinal display is because there is no image prior to when the image is painted on the back of the retina. There is no screen or intervening display. So laser beam scanning for augmented reality devices has been known for quite a long time, but they were believed to be physical obstacles to its pragmatic use. And the first was you needed to take that large dispersed beam of light and squeeze it through the pupil, but then have it large enough on the back of the eye so you had a large field of view. The second was that the beam of light bouncing off the mirror was extremely small, and it was difficult to align your eye with the beam of light. So because the exit pupil, that sweet spot where you could see the image, was very small. AV engineers worked this problem, and we were able to overcome these two issues. And we did this by using a pancake lens, which is a well-known device. It was actually invented by Raytheon 25 years ago. And what it does is it uses polarization to fold the light internally with a concave semi-transparent mirror, and it increases the field of view of that radially dispersed light and presents it to the user in these nice collimated beams of light. The second thing we did to increase the sweet spot, the exit pupil, was to use a numerical aperture expander, otherwise known as a diffuser lens, that enlarged the exit pupil. And in the case of our current device, we have an exit pupil of about 8 millimeters. And that is about the same size, if not larger, than the current exit pupil that one has using waveguide technology. And over the last 10 to 15 years, we've patented many of these improvements and many of these inventions. So novel optical design is what brings us to an optimal performance and form factor. So the optical design that we use, and you can see the guts of our optical engine on the right. Those are just, that's the optical components with the light path. It is a on-axis display, and by being on-axis, by being a central beam, we've been able to create a high image quality, no image distortion, no chromatic aberration, there's no rainbow effect. We're high resolution, we're about at 2 arc minutes, near the limit of resolution of the eye. Extremely bright, we're very close to the eye, about 12 millimeters, high energy efficiency, and we're a class 1 laser, meaning you can use it for continuous use. But these optomechanics bring us to what really is the best part of this, which is the form factor. It allows us to build something that is extremely small and very low in weight. Our entire device weighs less than 100 grams. And the optomechanics also allow us to bring it very close to the eye, as I said, within the object focal length of the eye, about 12 millimeters. And what that does is it allows that large field of view. So the device that I'm wearing right now, this very small form factor, gives me a field of view of about the size of a smartphone at 18 inches. That's about 24 by 13.5 degrees. Being so small and close to the eye is what enables the best expression of the form factor, which is that while this device is being used, there's no obstruction or degradation of the normal visual field when you're not looking at the display itself. And this is the form factor of our device. And we can see that it's extremely small. It's next to the nose. When you look forward, you don't see it. And when you look at the device, it is superimposed on the unobstructed eye, and it gives you an augmented reality experience. Because it's a monocular device at infinite focus, we don't have any visual interference, and we do not have any of the convergence accommodation conflict. Plus, by situating it next to the nose, we're able to position it in a place that innately is the easiest for people to use. And that was studied at Georgia Tech in that Starner's lab. And what they found is that close to nose positioning reduces cognitive load and as well as excessive head movements, and it enhances overall task performance. When looking at the form factor of this device compared with other devices, you can see that immersive virtual reality by design has 100% real world occlusion and limited wear. It's not designed to be walking around in public with. And as you go to the pass-through and mixed reality, the see-through, such as the HoloLens, to the newer devices, which are Light XR, you begin to bring in real world awareness and all-day wearability. And that's where our strength lies. The device that we're proposing has an extremely easy to wear and habituate to, as well as it provides 100% real world awareness during its use. So I'd like to just take a minute to discuss binocular rivalry. And the reason is because we're able to use a normal physiologic phenomenon, binocular rivalry, in order to create a very novel and interesting augmented reality experience. In normal vision, your two eyes, when they look forward, overlap at the central visual field. And that slightly dissimilar view of the world from each eye is interpreted by your brain as stereoscopic vision. When you present dissimilar, different images to each eye, the brain has difficulty making a coherent image. So what it does is it alternates dominance of the eyes. It bounces back and forth between the left and right eye. And which eye is dominant is complex, depending upon what your native hemispheric dominance is, what the image looks like, how bright it is, the contrast of the image. But needless to say, the image bounces back and forth between each eye, and the brain then tries to interpret it as a mosaic, a composition of the two dissimilar images. When you use an opaque display in one eye and an unobstructed view in the other eye, it creates this stable mosaic between the unobstructed eye and the obstructed eye with digital content, and it creates a uniform image that we like to call visual reality or fusion reality. So let's see an example of that in these diagrams. You can see the left eye and the right eye are looking forward, and in the middle, in the nasal region, there's the display, which you don't see because you're looking forward. When you look to the left eye swings to the left, the right eye swings to the left as well and sees the display. And what your brain then sees is a blending of these two views. And it seems as if the digital content is floating in the visual field on top of the view of the unobstructed eye. But let's take this a little bit further. in real life, you don't use your entire visual field for all of your attention. Most of your attention is concentrated in that central white area, your central visual field, which makes up about the central 30 degrees. And that's where 95% of your visual attention is focused. So when you use this device and you have the digital content in the obstructed eye and the other eye has the unobstructed view of the world, really what you tend to see is the following. You really concentrate on that digital image. Because we use an opaque device, you don't see the background of the device. You only see those areas in which digital content is presented. So it has this transparent look where you see the icon that seems to just float on the air and on the visual field in front of you, and you see the real world through that. And by moving your concentration, you can actually concentrate a little bit more on the digital image or on the unobstructed view. The application roadmap, our way of moving forward, is that we're currently involved in defense and aerospace, and AV is the recipient of 4 SBI awards. Currently we're building prototypes for our 2 clients, the U.S. Air Force, for their aircraft maintenance and repair for C-17s at Joint Base Charleston, and for NASA for their Earth Independent Medical Operations, autonomous medical care, which is part of the Human Research Program. Our intent is to deliver these prototypes to them this summer in 2025 so that they can utilize this device for task guidance and for clinical decision support. So in summary, it's important to remember that not all AR paradigms are appropriate for all situations. Amalgamated Vision is showing a laser beam scanning virtual retinal display, as well as novel optics that allows for a unique form factor and a new AR visual paradigm that capitalizes on binocular rivalry, which we term fusion reality. The device, because of the underlying design and optomechanics, is a compact, lightweight design, device that's ultra near to the eye, and it meets those human factor criteria that help make for a superior AR device. So we're enabling hands-free, on-demand visual augmentation that does not obstruct the normal visual field or diminish situational awareness. It's able to be worn all day with high environmental interactivity and providing a good user experience. So what we believe we are offering to the industry is a practical and realistic HMD solution to enable widespread adoption in multiple markets. Our technology is also content and vendor agnostic. We're a display company. Whatever kind of operating system or content people want to put into the device, it works perfectly fine for us. Currently, our current prototype is going to be a Wi-Fi MIPI protocol, so anything that you could put on a smartphone or transmit from a laptop to a smartphone is able to be transmitted to our device for display. And we will have working prototypes shortly. We're currently building the device in our lab in Rochester, New York. And we will be delivering prototypes to our clients, NASA and the Air Force, this summer. So I want to thank you guys for your time, for your attention. Very much appreciate it. I want to thank the entire AV team. A couple are on this call right now. And if you have any further questions, you want to reach out to us, please feel free to email us and reach out to us. So thanks very much.